Hello, everyone, and welcome to Bookish Babbles, the podcast where we reread our favorite books and chat about them. I'm your host, Alyson, and without further ado, let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 30 of Bookish Babbles. Today we are talking about chapters 19 to 21 of Catching Fire by Suzanne Collins. We are on part 3, The Enemy, and the Quarter Quell has officially begun. Dun dun dun! Also, before we get started, have you guys seen the trailer for the Shadow and Bone Season 2? I've definitely said in previous episodes that I am going to lose my mind when I see season 2, especially when I see all the crows together for the first time, and oh my god, Jack looks so good as Wylan, and we get Nikolai, we have Tolia and Tamar. I need the season now. It's gonna be amazing, and also low-key wanna get Alina's Keftka, specifically the blue one. That is like my favorite piece of costume in that show, but Anyway, I'll link the trailer in the show notes just because, in case you need an excuse to watch it again. This is your excuse. And speaking of adaptations, they've also started filming for season 2 of Heartstopper, so yay! And the yearbook and the Heartstopper yearbook is coming out, and everything's great right now in terms of like book to movie adaptation world, and yeah, I think that's all I really want to talk about. Yeah, not much going on this week. Other than, work and boring stuff. But anyway, so let's just get into the episode. So last week, both Katniss and Peeta give middle fingers to the game makers during their private training sessions. They make friends with the other victors, which is gonna make killing them even harder. During his interview, Peeta drops a bomb that makes the Capitol pro-lifers lose their shit. And Katniss has to watch Cinna get beaten to a pulp seconds before being launched into the arena. Great times. This week, Katniss and Peeta form an alliance with District 4. Peeta nearly dies on day 1. Mags isn't as lucky. And they encounter deadly monkeys. So with that being said, let's dive into chapter 19. Okay, so like I said, we are on part 3, The Enemy. Who is the enemy? Guess we have to keep reading to find out. So this chapter picks up right where the last one left off. Katniss is in another arena, standing on her podium, whatever you call that, in the middle of a body of water, after having just watched Cinna being beaten up and dragged away by peacekeepers. And it's safe to assume that they won't let him continue breathing for much longer. We of course hear Claudius Templesmith announce, "Ladies and gentlemen, let the 75th Hunger Games begin." And poor Katniss has less than a minute to pull herself together, and ultimately manages to, since, Cinna risked everything by undermining Snow, and to help, further embolden the rebels, by refusing to play the game Snow wants her to. So with all that in mind, Katniss is able to ground herself and take in her surroundings. The cornucopia is about 40 yards away on a little island in the center of the body of water, though there are 12 spokes connecting the cornucopia island and the rest of the arena, and a pair of tributes on pedestals are in between each spoke. The closest tribute to Katniss is Woof, and she can't find Peeta, and figures he must be on the other side of the cornucopia. Katniss looks around and realizes the only way to get off the pedestal and get to the cornucopia is to swim. Luckily for her, her father taught her how to swim at the lake, though she's never swam in salt water before, but she manages, and has a slight advantage since, apart from her and the careers, most of the others aren't strong swimmers. Katniss runs to the cornucopia, where there's a pile of weapons at the mouth, and immediately snatches up the bow and arrows, then senses someone approaching her, and it's Finnick. And the exchange they have is perfect. Finnick, You can swim too? Where did you learn to do that in District 12? Katniss, we have a big bathtub. Finnick, you must. You like the arena? Katniss, not particularly, but you should. They must have built it especially for you. Ay, ay. They squabble like siblings. I love them. Then the two of them are frozen for a moment until Finnick says, "Lucky thing we're allies, right?" For a second, Katniss thinks that it's a trap and is ready to fire an arrow until she sees the gold bangle that Finnick is wearing, the same one Haymitch had been wearing. That was the gift from Effie. And it's a very clear signal / order to ally with Finnick. And Katniss decides to trust him for now, just in the nick of time, because Finnick tells her to duck. She does, and Finnick throws his Triton and kills the guy from 5. And just like that, someone's already dead. Finnick tells Katniss not to trust 1 and 2, meaning that the traditional career pack is not a thing this year. Then again, the dynamic between the career districts has been so interesting, especially now, since 4 is rebelling and 1 and 2 aren't. Anyway, Katniss and Finnick each guard one side of the cornucopia. Katniss sees Anabaria and Gloss reaching the land. Finnick and Katniss quickly determine that the cornucopia only has weapons, so they grab what they want and go. Katniss also fires arrows at Gloss and Anabaria. Anabaria sees this coming and dives in the water. Gloss, however, gets shot in the calf and falls in, which I don't know why, but I laugh every time I see it in the movie. Anyway, Katniss finds Peeta still on his plate, and Finnick volunteers to go get him, even reminds Katniss not to exert herself in her condition, because, remember, the audience thinks that Katniss is pregnant. Katniss positions herself to cover Finnick, though no one is interested in attacking them at the moment. The 4 careers are gathered at the cornucopia, picking their weapons. Most of the others are still stuck on their plates, other than Max, who is swimming toward Katniss. Finnick reaches Peeta and helps him get to shore. Peeta, being charming as ever, says hello again to Katniss and gives her a kiss, and comments about how, hey, we have allies now. Finnick also comments that he can't leave Max behind since, and I quote, she's one of the few people who actually likes me. Goddamn. Between Finnick and Peeta, I cannot handle this amount of charm and perfection. Is that why both of them couldn't live, Suzanne? Anyway, moving on. We're not there yet. Finnick also says Katniss has good judgment since she wanted to ally with Mags from day 1. Mags also points out that Beetee has figured out that the belts on all their jumpsuits are flotation devices, and Brutus even used his earlier to shield himself from Katniss's arrows. Katniss thinks about asking Finnick to take Beetee and Wyrus with them, but there's not really any time for that. So they keep moving and retreat into the jungle, and they climb uphill for about a mile before taking a break. During this break, Katniss scales a tree to look back at the cornucopia to see if she can see what's going on. And here's how it describes in the book what Katniss sees. Around the cornucopia, the ground appears to be bleeding. The water has purple stains. Bodies lie on the ground and flow in the sea. But at this distance, with everyone dressed exactly the same, I can't tell who lives or dies. All I can tell is that some of the tiny blue figures still battle. Well, what did I think? That the victors' chain of locked hands last night would result in some sort of universal truce in the arena? No, I never believed that. But I guess I just hope people might show some, restraint? Reluctance, at least. But they jumped right into massacre mode. And you all knew each other, I think. You acted like friends. I have only one real friend in here, and he isn't from District 4. Gosh dang, this passage is so good. And I don't know about you guys, but this feels very similar to thoughts that young Coriolanus had back in Ballad, especially, after Gaul took him under her wing. And it is kind of interesting how you can draw parallels between Snow and Katniss, especially now because we have Ballad. And it's not thrown in your face either. It's more subtle. But it's really interesting once you notice it. For example, we know from the first book that for most of her life, Katniss is constantly battling hunger, and in Ballad, Coriolanus is also food insecure. and both of them have the pressure to take care of their families. Katniss, like, quite literally, she goes hunting to feed everyone, and then Coriolanus needs to go to school and better himself so that his family can have financial security and keep up their, elite status in the capital. But they all, Corio and Katniss obviously come from very different backgrounds, and they go down very different paths. Anyway, Katniss climbs down from the tree to join the rest of the group, and she considers shooting Finnick right then and there, because she can't see a future in this alliance, and little does she know. But Finnick, being the perspective person he is, picks up on this and just stands there casually, holding his trident, waiting for Katniss to make the first move, almost like he's daring her to try. And I'm going to read the exchange they have. I mean, at this rate, I'm going to end up reading almost every single word Finnick utters in this book. And you know what? It would not be the worst thing ever. Right, so it starts toward the bottom of page 276 with Finnick saying, "What's going on down there, Katniss? Have they all joined hands, taking a vow of non-violence, tossed the weapons in the sea in defiance of the capital?" Finnick asks. "No," I say. "No," Finnick repeats, "because whatever happened in the past is in the past, and no one in this arena was a victor by chance." He eyes Peeta for a moment, except maybe Peeta. Finnick knows then what Haymitch and I know, about Peeta being truly deep down better than the rest of us. Finnick took out that tribute from 5 without blinking an eye, and how long did I take to turn deadly? I shot to kill when I targeted Anabaria and Gloss and Brutus. Peeta would at least have attempted negotiations first, seeing if some wider alliance was possible. But to what end? Finnick's right. I'm right. The people in this arena weren't crowned for their compassion. I hold his gaze, weighing his speed against my own, the time it will take to send an arrow through his brain versus the time his trident will reach my body. I can see him waiting for me to make the first move, calculating if he should block first or go directly for an attack. I can feel we've both about worked it out when Peeta steps deliberately between us. "So how many are dead?" he asks. "Move, you idiot," I think, but he remains planted firmly between us. "Hard to say," I answer. "At least 6, I think. And they're still fighting." "Let's keep moving. We need water," he says. And remembering how she nearly died of dehydration the previous year, Katniss, understandably agrees and wants to find water as soon as possible. Plus, Finnick reminds her that the couriers will be out hunting later that night, so maybe now's not the best time to, unalive him. There's a page left with something happening at the end of the chapter. I mean, something happens at the end of every chapter, but that's how books work. Duh, but you know what I mean. The absence of water intensifies my thirst. I keep a sharp eye out as we continue our trek upward, but with no luck. After about another mile, I can see an end to the tree line, and assume we're reaching the crest of the hill. Maybe we'll have better luck on the other side, find a spring or something. But there is no other side. I know this before anyone else, even though I am the furthest from the top. My eyes catch on a funny, rippling square hanging like a wrapped pane of glass in the air. At first I think it's the glare from the sun, or the heat shimmering up off the ground, but it's fixed in space, not shifting when I move, and that's when I connect the square with Wires and Beatty in the training center and realize what lies before us. My warning cry is just reaching my lips when Peeta's knife swings out to slash away some vines. There's a sharp zapping sound. For an instant the trees are gone, and I see open space over a short stretch of bare earth. Then Peeta's flung back from the force field, bringing Finnick and Max to the ground. I rush over to where he lies, motionless in a web of vines. "Peeta?" There's a faint smell of singed hair. I call his name again, giving him a little shake, but he's unresponsive. My fingers fumble across his lips where there's no warm breath, although moments ago he was panting. I press my ear against his chest to the spot where I always rest my head, where I know I will hear a strong and steady beat of his heart. Instead, I find silence. So with that heart-stopping cliffhanger, oh, that was so bad. but I'm also not sorry. Time for a break. Hello, everyone. It's Alyson at a different point in time, and this is not a random recommendation. I haven't done one of those in a while, but this is just something I forgot to say while I was recording. Basically, just be on the lookout for some fall-themed bonus episodes that I'm planning to do, and I promise the very belated birthday book haul is also coming. I'm really bad at this, I know. But yeah, this is just plugging future bonus episodes, so be on the lookout for those because it's fall. Woo! I love it. Yeah, that's it. That's the self-promotion ad. Back to the episode. Okay, we're back. So Katniss is understandably freaking out, as I did the first time I read this, because what the fuck, Suzanne? Because I didn't know if Peeta would be okay. I still hadn't processed what happened to Cinna a second ago. Thankfully, Finnick knows what to do and sprints into action. I guess part of District 4's children's upbringing is learning CPR, which makes sense since they spend most of their time around water. Katniss doesn't quite understand at first what he's doing and almost shoots Finnick until she's so surprised by him seemingly kissing Peeta. Before she realizes that, he's actually trying to save Peeta, since she has seen her mother do CPR a few times, though it isn't always successful. Just when Katniss is deciding that Finnick failed and Peeta wasn't going to live, Peeta says, as if, and comes back to life. Although he doesn't actually say as if. The first thing he actually says is, "Careful, there's a force field up ahead." Like, yeah, no shit, Peeta. Thanks for scaring all of us half to death. Katniss is still pretty hysterical for a bit and can't stop herself from making choking sounds, despite Peeta reassuring her that he's fine. And Finnick once again plays the pregnancy card, saying, it's her hormones making her act up like this. And this only makes Katniss angry mixed within, all the sobbing, because she now feels like she'll never stop owing Finnick between continuing to cover for her in front of the cameras and, the small matter of saving Peeta's life. Kind of hard to kill him in his sleep after that. Also, there's a moment where Finnick is looking back and forth between Peeta and Katniss as if he's trying to figure something out, and we know what this means, having read the books multiple times now, that this is the moment when Finnick, and more importantly Snow, realizes that Katniss does have genuine feelings for Peeta, though Katniss herself doesn't realize this yet, but it doesn't matter, because either way, Snow now knows that Peeta is truly someone Katniss loves, so he can be used against her in the future, which we all know will happen, but let's save all that pain for the next book. Anyway, after blowing her nose with a leaf Mags handed her, Katniss notices the gold necklace that Peeta is wearing, and it has a mockingjay on it, which is both a blessing and a curse, because, it gives a boost for the rebels to see him wearing it, but also decreases the chances that Snow will let Peeta survive the games. They decide to keep moving, and Katniss takes the lead since she seems to know where the force field is, and instead of revealing that Wyrus and Beetee taught her how to spot it, they make up a story that she can hear it, that, after the Capitol doctors fixed her ear after the last games, they must have done their job too well, and now she can hear things that you don't think a person should be able to hear, like snow falling, or hearing, insects' wings flapping, that type of thing. Though Katniss still does throw some nuts at the force field, so she and the others can still see where it is. And Mags also naturally cracks open one of the nuts and eats it. Katniss freaks out and tells her to spit it out since the nuts could be poisonous, but Mags, with all the confidence and ability to not give a fuck at a level only someone in their 80s can have, waves it off like it's no big deal. Finnick laughs and says, "Guess we'll find out." And, spoiler alert, the nuts were not poison. Mags is fine. For now. Katniss also wonders, not for the first time, why Haymitch chose Finnick to be her ally, and wonders why Finnick has put so much effort into helping him, and going to such great lengths to keep Peeta alive. They take another break, and Katniss climbs a different tree, and from there, Katniss gets a look at the whole force field, shaped like a dome, and it's not a very large arena, but still no signs of fresh water. And Katniss worries that the game makers want the games this year to end as quickly as possible, since they're proving to be unpopular with the capital citizens. But I also think that Snow wants the victors he doesn't like to die as soon as possible. And, the best way to ensure tributes die sooner is to make water nearly impossible to find. They keep looking for water, but by mid-afternoon it's clear that Mags and Peeta can't go on for much longer, because running into that force field and, nearly dying took a lot out of Peeta, more than he wants to admit. Finnick chooses a campsite near the force field. That way they can use it as a weapon if they're attacked. And I'm surprised that Katniss doesn't think about the fact that using the force field is what Haymitch did to win his games, and it, had some severe consequences. I mean, she's got a lot going on, so we can forgive her for that. And, the force field is brought up again. Totally not important part of the story, guys. Won't come into play at all. Mags weaves mats with grass so they can all sleep on. Katniss hunts around for some water with no success. She hears 8 cannons go off, meaning that the initial bloodbath is officially over and 8 tributes are dead. But at least Katniss kills an animal and they have dinner. They don't know what to call it, so they call it a tree rat. And they cook it using the force field, since they don't want to risk a fire with the arena being so small. Then that night, they see all the tributes that had died that day. Everyone from districts 1 through 4 are still alive. So the first one they see is the guy from 5 that Finnick killed earlier. Then the male morphling from 6, Cecilia and Wolf from 8, which makes me so sad, since Cecilia's kids probably had to watch that. Once again, both tributes from 9 are killed in the bloodbath. Seriously, do we ever get a named character from 9? And the woman from 10 in Cedar also died that day. Would have loved for Cedar to have lived and been part of the Alliance, but it was sadly not meant to be. Can't have everything, I guess. Anyway, they get the parachute from Haymitch, so that's good. They all hope that it's water, but sadly no. No one can figure out what the gift is at first, but Katniss knows that Haymitch had a hand in sending it, and his gifts, or sometimes lack thereof gifts, always have some sort of meaning behind it. Katniss lies down and starts thinking of everyone back home, thinks of the woods outside 12, and it triggers a memory with her father. And with that, she's able to place what the gift is. A spile. When Katniss was a kid, her father used one to get sap from trees and make maple syrup, and they put it on their bread to make it taste better. After Mr. Everdeen died, the spiles were lost, since Katniss didn't know where he had hidden them in the woods. But with the tree in the jungle, they can use the spile to get water. Peeta drills a hole in the tree with Mags's awl, and lo and behold, they have water. Woo! After that, they all realize how tired they are, and they're ready to go to sleep. Finnick volunteers to take first watch. At some point, Katniss is woken up by 12 bongs of a bell. Peeta and Mags are apparently heavy sleepers, because they both sleep right through that. Katniss and Finnick wait to see if there will be any announcements, but nothing happens. So now Katniss takes over the watch, since Finnick can't stay awake forever. And at some point she hears lightning and rain, and the rain never reaches them, which is, interesting. And there's another cannon, so someone else is dead. And I'm pretty sure at this point it's Blight from 7, because Joanna says later that he died while they were stuck in the blood rain. But anyway, and then Katniss sees some fog coming. Perfectly harmless looking fog. Until it gets too close and she starts to blister. And that's how the chapter ends. The even bigger plot twist is that I didn't even end this chapter with a reading. Anyway, break time! Hey guys, here's me with an actual random recommendation. And it is a manga series, Yona of the Dawn. It is so good. I am still waiting for volume 4 because it's out of stock, and it's coming in a couple weeks, but I read volumes 1 through 3. I really need the volume 4 now, so then I can, move on to the other volumes. I've heard really good things about the anime, but I believe there's only one season, and apparently there hasn't been any news for season 2, which is unfortunate because what I've read so far in the manga is really good, so I can only imagine the anime is just as fantastic. But it's basically about Princess Yona. Father gets, forced to leave life, and she's going on the run with her bodyguard slash, love interest, I guess. And it's amazing. Like, if you love Avatar: The Last Airbender, I think you would love Yona of the Dawn. Like, this and Spy Family are like my new favorite things. So there's that. And you're getting a bonus recommendation now. The movie Howl's Moving Castle is so good because I've mentioned that I love Sorcery of Thorns. It's my new favorite book, and someone told me that that book gives off Howl's Moving Castle vibes, specifically the movie, not the book. But oh my god, the movie was so good and is exactly I want to watch it again, just like I want to read Sorcery of Thorns again. I want to live in those worlds. Anyway, but yes, Yona of the Dawn. If you want a new manga series, it is a long one. I think there are like 20 something volumes out, maybe more. But if you want a long series, so far this is a good one. And like I said, Universe, get my volume 4 to me faster, please. Anyway, back to the episode. And we're back. So Katniss and crew are being attacked by poisonous fog. In the first line of the chapter, it says, tiny searing stabs wherever the droplets of mist touch my skin, which, ouch. Katniss yells for everyone to run. Finnick immediately wakes up and is at first ready to fight someone, but, then sees the fog and picks up Mags and runs. And Katniss grabs Peeta and pulls him through the jungle. And it's during this time that Katniss realizes just how much hitting the force field has affected Peeta, and he's moving much slower than normal and keeps tripping over the vines. Seeing the fog coming in from multiple directions, Katniss has a moment where she's tempted to flee and abandon Peeta, like how she did the previous year when they were running from the Mutts. But Katniss manages to control her fear and stick by Peeta, which is a wonderful moment to show her growth and development. They manage to move a little faster, but they can't afford to rest at all. Droplets from the fog keep hitting them, and the jumpsuits offer no protection at all. Finnick realizes how behind they've gotten and shouts encouragements, and they use his voice as a guide for where to go. Then Peeta's artificial leg catches on a knot of vines, and he falls down. Katniss tries to help him and notices his face twitching as another effect from the fog, and her arms begin to spasm as well. And with the artificial leg, it's almost impossible for Peeta to walk. So Finnick takes Peeta, and Katniss does her best to carry Mags, but doesn't work out very well. And Finnick can't carry both Peeta and Mags, and time for reading, because, more tragedy has to happen. What happens next is so fast, so senseless, I can't even move to stop it. Mags hauls herself up, plants a kiss on Finnick's lips, and then hobbles straight into the fog. Immediately her body is seized by wild contortions, and she falls to the ground in a horrible dance. I want to scream, but my throat is on fire. I take one futile step in her direction when I hear the cannon blast. Know her heart is stopped and that she is dead. Finnick, I call out hoarsely, but he has already turned from the scene, already continued his retreat from the fog. Dragging my useless leg behind me, I stagger after him, having no idea what else to do. So yeah, that happens. Sucks, because Mags is the best. But, okay, Finnick, Peeta, and Katniss, they keep going for who knows how long. Eventually they collapse, and Katniss expects to be overtaken by the fog, but that doesn't happen. The fog has reached the end of its territory, and they collapse just in the right spot, so they're safe. Yay! Peeta also notices a pair of monkeys in the tree, but not important at the moment. They crawl to the beach and make it to the water, and it turns out that salt water helps heal the blisters they got from the fog. And the next couple pages are just the three of them soaking themselves to heal, so nothing too important to dwell on in this moment. And I don't really have much to say for this chapter, or really this whole episode. It feels a lot shorter than usual since a lot of things are just happening, and it's just happening so fast that it's hard to sit back and digest it all, which is probably how Katniss is feeling, because we know by Mockingjay when she has time to settle down, that's when the PTSD really starts kicking in. It's so much fun, guys. Anyway, though Katniss, during this time when they are, when they are soaking themselves, does wonder why Finnick was almost seemingly ready to abandon Mags to save Peeta. But no time to dwell on that because monkey attack! And there's a couple of pages of the chapter left, so you know what that means. Time for a reading. I know every arrow must count, and they do. In the eerie light, I bring down monkey after monkey, targeting eyes and hearts and throats, so that each hit means a death. But it still wouldn't be enough without Finnick spearing the bees like fish and flinging them aside, Peeta slashing away with his knife. I feel claws on my leg, down my back before someone takes out the attacker. The air grows heavy with trampled plants, the scent of blood, and the musty stink of the monkeys. Peeta and Finnick and I position ourselves in a triangle a few yards apart, our backs to one another. My heart sinks as my fingers draw back my last arrow. Then I remember Peeta has a sheath too. And he's not shooting. He's hacking away with that knife. My own knife is out now, but the monkeys are quicker, can spring in and out so fast you barely react. Peeta! I shout. Your arrows! Peeta turns to see my predicament and is sliding off his sheath when it happens. A monkey lunges out of a tree for his chest. I have no arrow, no way to shoot. I can hear the thud of Finnick's trident finding another mark and know his weapon is occupied. Peeta's knife arm is disabled as he tries to remove the sheath. I throw my knife at the oncoming mud, but the creature somersaults, evading the blade, and stays on its trajectory. Weaponless, defenseless, I do the only thing I can think of. I run for Peeta, to knock him to the ground, to protect his body with mine, even though I know I won't make it in time. She does, though, materializing, it seems, from thin air, one moment nowhere, the next right in front of Peeta. Already bloody, mouth open in high-pitched scream, pupils enlarged so her eyes seem like black holes. The insane morphling from District 6 throws up her skeletal arm as if to embrace the monkey, and it sinks its fangs into her chest. And that's the end of the chapter, and all we got for today. So we'll unpack all that next time when we what we do next time. Chapter 22 to 24, yeah. I can count. I know numbers, guys. But yeah, this is, like I said, it's a fairly short episode, I feel like. Not much to say other than a lot of people dying already. Then again, what I expect from a Hunger Games book. But yes, again, nothing much to say. It feels weird. I feel like there's usually more to say at the end, but thank you guys for listening. Socials in the show notes. Hope you all have a great day / night, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!